Welcome back to Sports Call here on Tiger 95.9. We are on Radio Row in Tampa, Florida, SEC Media Days 2026. We are now very pleased to be joined by Paul Hodges, the Experiential Marketing Manager here at Regions, and we've got Peter Burns of the SEC Network.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely, guys. We're certainly glad to have you here, and we want to talk first about the new podcast series coming with Regions Bank, and that, Peter, that you and Chris Doering are working on together. It is Regions Extra, Welcome to the SEC. And guys, tell me a little bit about the idea of this and why it was important for you guys to want to work on this.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So Regions has been a sponsor of the SEC for 30 years now, and we were looking for ways to, with so many new coaches to come into the league over the course of the last year, looking for new ways to create compelling and engaging content. We were already working with Chris and Peter. We've done a great episode of a podcast with Coach Steve Spurrier, and Peter and I were talking, and we just said, hey, how can we sort of build on this idea of the old ball coach but take it forward into some of the new coaches coming into the league, and it just was right there for us. It was low-hanging, and of course, Peter and Chris are just great at what they do and have an awesome Rolodex and great partners on this, and I'll let Peter describe how we went from there.
Yeah, it was fun, and again, no better place to talk about it than here, when you guys are here in Auburn, because, for Alex Golesh, I knew who he was as an offensive coordinator at Tennessee. I knew when he got hired, but I don't know who he is as a human, and that's kind of the genesis of working with Paul and the Regions team was like, hey, everything in sports feels so transactional right now. How do we know the personalities that kind of stick? Because then you don't necessarily pull for teams, you kind of pull for people. And that's what I've noticed over the last decade. So we came up with this idea. I'm like, let me talk to the coaches. But I don't want to talk to them at media days. I don't want to talk to them in their football facility. I want to go to their home. And so after we got Coach Spurrier to agree to that, mostly because of Chris Doering and his great relationship, every kind of coach I kind of shamed to be like, well, Coach Spurrier invited us to his house. And everybody's like, well, Spurrier did it. Come on over. But I made a mistake with Alex Golesh because when we showed up, as Doering, I think, told you, we showed up. The moving van had gotten there a day early, and Coach looks at us and he goes, all right, boys, let's get to work. He's having us move boxes. And I told our film crew that day, and I said, y'all need to get this. This needs to be part of the podcast because these are the stories that we're trying to tell that, yes, they are coaches. Yes, they are great at X and O's, but who are they? And to hear Golesh's story about his upbringing and his family. And then, we're in the middle of this conversation. He's like, hey, afterwards we got a pond in the back. Let's go fishing. So we're like, well, why not? And so we did that. We had an opportunity to sit down with Pete Golding. We had an opportunity to sit down with Ryan Silverfield at Arkansas, John Summerall at Florida. And that's really kind of the perfect marriage of what Regions wanted to do in their footprint and what we had the connections to do. And now we get to kind of share it with everybody over on YouTube. It's going to be fun.
And again, this podcast series, as you mentioned, again, it's the new coaches to the SEC. And, we know how tough this environment can be. It is a
pressure cooker, man.
Absolutely. Oof. Not only at Auburn, but across the league. I'm curious on the Coach Golesh front because, again, we talk about the X's and O's and that sort of thing. But one thing we tried to look at in the offseason, especially when it's transfer portal time, how many of his USF players were coming to Auburn with him? And we tried to gauge the barometer of, does that say something about who he is, that a lot of his players want to continue to play for him? And I'm just curious about the conversations you have had with him and how personable he seems to be with his players or just overall.
Yeah, I think when we talked to the coach, I think we talked to Coach Golesh in a traditional media setting, he's going to say the coach speak type things in that. But when we sat in his outdoor patio in his home, you get a feeling for why Byron Brown said I wanted to go there, why Brian wanted to go out there and talk to 5 different wide receivers and be like, dude, you need to come play for this guy, and the center and all of that. So I think that was the unique part of what this podcast series allowed us to do, is to find out not just why, but dive in 2 levels deeper. And when you sit down and you talk to Alex Golesh, you realize, A, he's just a dude that loves his family, and that he's so excited. Coaches want to still be cool, right? But when he opens up, you get a feel for what's real, and I think that's what we've been able to tap into with the podcast series with Regions, is the realness of these coaches, because they're so guarded. You know how it is, man. SEC fans are a little bit different. Paul, you notice that. You've been in that footprint for forever.
Yeah, and And what Peter's describing is exactly where we wanted to take our customer, our fan, if you will, and it's. I've watched it, and I'm so compelled by it that I keep coming back to it. And I think whether you're a fan of Auburn and Golish, who's just come in, or if you're just interested in the SEC in general, you're not going to be able to help but watch because of the way you're going to walk away feeling as if though you were sitting on the back patio, if you were on the couch or in the garage moving boxes. It really transports you right into the moment, and it's an experience. Media days are wonderful. It's a great opportunity for us to hear from coaches, from players. It's curated. This was natural, and so this is what we wanted to connect fans of Regions through our social channels. What we wanted to connect them to. Peter and Chris gave us a wonderful opportunity to do that.
My favorite thing, to build on what Paul had just talked about with the Regions access that we had, talked to Ryan Silverfield, brand new head coach. I didn't know much about him. In fact, Chris Doering, in the middle of our interview, in his own home, his wife's sitting there watching us, and he goes, "I don't know anything about you." And Silverfield was great, and he goes, I get it. I completely understand that. But even spin it forward, would we show up to do the Regions podcast? We show up, we get ready to knock on the door. He's like, no, don't knock on the door. And he's got like a baby bottle in his hand. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, listen, I got 2 twins that are underneath, like 2 years old. Shh, like nap time's about to happen. We got to go do this interview in the back. See, and I'm like, you're the head coach at Arkansas, like, and you've got a baby bottle, and like you're dealing with like, toddlers just in the backyard, and so it's just fascinating to get to know who these people are outside of wins and losses on Saturdays.
Well, and that's what you're talking about there. I mean, it's the human side of it. And, I think about the partnership that Regions has had for a long time with the Southeastern Conference, the relationship its people have, its customers, with this league and with these, huge fan bases that, Commissioner Sankey was talking about yesterday. Some are going to try to spin it around and say, oh, you guys didn't win the title last year. This is your talking point. But it's meaningful to fill SEC stadiums of 80, 90, 100,000 people each weekend. So I take it, guys, again, and Paul, your relationship with obviously the SEC with Regions, and then Peter, obviously, with all that you've been doing covering the SEC, like this is a deeper thing than as you've been talking about, okay, who's going to go 10-2 this year? Who's going to go 5-7? Just tell me about just the longevity of these relationships.
Well, thank you for saying that, because that's the thing that Paul and I have talked about, is that me and Doering, we get a text now from Will Stein about what happens over at Media Days or Golish. I mean, I can remember when I was up in the College World Series, we would talk, Pete Golding would send me something, or Summerall would see us on there. So we've created this connection and this bond that helps us tell those stories. And there's so many different sponsors that want to come out there and they want to put money into the SEC because it is the end-all be-all when it comes to college football. But it's the people like the Regions crew and Paul specifically, who's a huge sports fan, that says, I want to live it. And I think that's why there's a benefit on this opportunity that we had in front of us.
And, of course, I'm from the Birmingham area. I'm familiar with the golf side of things. Peter, you're a big golfer, familiar with the Regions tradition, going from Shoal Creek to now at Greystone. And so I've been hitting the links a lot this summer. I unfortunately am not up in Birmingham playing at Greystone or Shoal Creek, but there's also great golf in the state of Florida. So if you want to talk about a good 3 to 4 hours of having relationship building, a golf course like, again, where you go with the Regions tradition, or Peter, again, I know you're a big golfer. That's a great place to build relationships.
We need to have you up next year.
So there it is.
Absolutely.
So Peter and I did this dog and pony show live from Greystone last year, so we'll have you up.
Awesome. That sounds like a plan. Paul Hodges, Peter Burns here joining us today on Sports Call. Paul and Peter, we certainly appreciate the time. Again, we'll look forward to this podcast series on Regions YouTube.
Yep.
And again, Chris Doering and Peter Burns doing it with the new SEC coaches this year. Guys, we certainly appreciate the time today.
War Damn Eagle. Good luck.
War Eagle. We appreciate it. That is Peter Burns, Paul Hodges of Regions joining us today on Sports Call.